Hi class, this is the second part in our fraction series using fraction strips. For this lesson we're talking about fractions of thirds, sixths, ninths, and twelfths. Our learning targets are the same. I can define numerator and denominator, and I can represent fractions using paper folding and symbols. For your fraction strips, again, we are using our DAB, page 199, or we might be close to onto the next page, 200. And we are going to be using 4 more strips from this. So you need to color 4 more strips, 1 green, 1 blue, 1 orange, and 1 purple. So you need those colored pencils, and you're going to color 4 more of these. Then cut them out carefully again on those dotted lines. And once you have that done, when you have your blue strip, you're going to follow the same procedure that we did for our halves and fourths and eighths, but the thirds is a little bit harder, so you're probably going to need this video to help you with it once you actually get to this part in math class. So here's my thirds. It's really hard to, you can't just fold it in half and things like that. So there's a couple different ways you can do thirds. You can kind of fold them in until they all match up, but that's really tricky. You want each side should come, the ends of the paper should come to the ends on each side. You can do kind of like a loose S, like this, until again that they all meet, that we don't have any sticking out over the edges. So once you've got 3 equal sections, you want to take your ruler, and remember we're going to fold it really sharply so we have a nice sharp edge. We're going to take our ruler, draw a line on each fold, and label each section 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. We should have 3 parts. When you get to the next step, fold the green strip into 6 equal parts, and we're going to label those 6. So there's a couple different ways that you can do the 6th. Probably the easiest way is to fold fold it into thirds again, so like you did for the other one. So you would go like that and fold it into thirds. I can kind of show you what that looks like. Oh, what do you know? 2/3 is this, or 1/3 is the same as 2 of our 6th. That might come up later. So you can fold it into thirds and then fold that whole thing into halves again. Remember, we want equal, all parts should be equal. That's very important for fractions. Okay, so once you have that, it might take a little playing with. You unfold it. You should have those nice sharp edges. Draw your lines with your ruler and label each section 1/6. So we should have 6 sixths, or 1 whole. Then we get to ninths, which is the orange strip. We're going to divide that, fold that into 9 equal pieces. So the way to do this is to divide it into thirds again. So we've got our thirds match up with 1/3 matches up with 3/9, and you're going to fold it into thirds again after that, because 3 times 3 equals 9. So we've got that. We unfold, draw our lines with our ruler, and label them 1/9, and we should have 9 sections, 9/9. This should be getting a little easier by now. I know these ones are tricky. Then we go on to 12ths. We have our purple strip, which is, we're going to fold that one. I found the easiest way to do this is to fold it in half. So fold the whole thing in half. And then fold it, fold it into thirds from there. So if you can somehow figure out how to fold that into, okay, let me show you this way. We have half, and then fold it into thirds, and then fold that in half again. So it's half, thirds, half. So there goes my half. Make sure that they're equal. Mine are nice and equal. I don't have any that are hanging out or that are too short. Nice sharp edges. Unfold, use my ruler, draw my lines. And we divide this into 12ths, and they are tiny. So we should have 12 twelfths. You notice the bigger the denominator gets, the smaller the pieces get. All right. Remember, all parts are equal. That's very important for these lessons. Fractions have to be equal parts, or they're not really fractions. All right, talking about equal, this is a big word, equivalent fractions. And we've heard that word before, and equivalent basically means equal, okay? So, for example, I showed you some equivalent fractions before, whether you knew it or not. If we have the fraction strip, we have 1/2. 1/2 is the same as, is equal to 2/4. So I can show you that. Here's 2/4. Oops. They're the same length. 2/4 is equal to 1/2. If I take 3/6, that is the same as 1/2. So 3/6 is equal to 1/2. 4/8, which we did yesterday, 4/8 is equal to 1/2, and 6/12. Let's see, 12ths. It's kind of hard because they're so bendy, but 6/12 is the same as 1/2. Those are equivalent fractions. That means that, and you can write this in your vocabulary section of your note catcher, equivalent fractions show the same part of the whole. So we're showing half of a whole. Well, so is this. This is also showing half of a whole. All right? So it also means equal. You can put that in there too if that helps you. I kind of showed it here. I have a whole that's divided. It was divided in half, and half was shaded in pink, if you can see that. Then I divided it into fourths with my brown lines, and I shaded in 2/4 because it says 2/4 is equal to 1/2, and sure enough it is. I shaded in 2/4 in the brown, and that was the same as the pink half. So my question is, what do we notice about the denominators of all of these equivalent fractions that are equivalent to 1/2? So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, and 12. Well, they're all multiples of 2, which means they can all be, you can divide them all by 2. You can multiply 2 by something else to get these numbers. So for the practice work in your note catcher, I want you to try that. So we talked about what was equivalent to 1/2. I want you to think about 1/3. I'm going to tell you what fractions are equivalent, but you have to notice something about those denominators on this fraction. So if we're talking about 1/3, which is shown right here, that's the same as 2/6. Oops. 1/3 is the same as 2/6. It's the same as 3/9 and 4/12. So if all of those are equivalent fractions, for your practice work, I want you to take a look at these, and what do you notice about all of the denominators of these equivalent fractions? Go ahead and write that in your practice section. If you have any questions, go ahead and write those down. There is no summarize for this.